Ladies and gentlemen, please stand up as we sing our Indonesian anthem, Indonesia Raya. Please be seated. Hello everyone, are you excited? Are you excited? Yeah, because I am. Okay, so before we start, please everyone be seated now. Okay, I still see some people keep coming. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera bagi kita semuanya. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. First and foremost, we are honored to have in our presence His Excellency, Minister of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology of Republik Indonesia, Bapak Nadiem Makarim. Selamat pagi Pak. Bapak Victor Hartono dari PT Jarum, dan Bapak Roberto Hartono, CCO Polytron. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, and members of the media, it is with great honor and privilege that I, Osi Indra, stand before you today as your MC. I extend my warmest welcome to the distinguished individuals joining us for the special occasion, Conversation with Sam Altman, organized by KORIKA and GDP Venture. Furthermore, I extend a heartfelt welcome to our esteemed guest, Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT and DALL-E. We are very, very grateful for his presence and insights. To guide us through today's event, we have the distinguished Professor Dr. Insinyur Hamam Riza, MSc, President of KORIKA, Collaborative Research and Industrial Innovation in AI. We are honored to have him as our moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Please join me in giving a warm round of applause as we welcome Professor Dr. Insinyur Hamam Riza and Sam Altman on the stage.
It's 100 degrees, why you feeling down, what's the problem? We just here to be free, it don't feel like the summer. Bumping to the radio with that so cold as the moonlight glows. No, we don't give a
Pak Hamam, the floor.
All right. Thank you so much, Ossie. So let me go ahead and set up this very interesting event. I will greet everybody first. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, shalom, om swastiastu, nama budaya, salam kebajikan. Greetings to all of you. Hello everyone. All the AI developers and enthusiasts. Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this highly anticipated conversation with Sam Altman. Today we gathered to embark on a journey into the realm of artificial intelligence, guided by the wisdom and insights of one of the brightest minds in the field, Sam Altman. So I extend my deepest gratitude to OpenAI, GDP Ventures, KORIKA for organizing this remarkable event, providing us with a platform actually that will excel into the extraordinary advancement of artificial intelligence. In my capacity as President of KORIKA, the Collaborative Research and Industrial Innovations in Artificial Intelligence, also as a Principal Engineer at the National Research and Innovation Agency, as well as a Professor of AI at the University of Shah Kuala, I stand before you humble and honored. For the past 35 years, I have dedicated my life to studying and researching AI, starting with the knowledge base to the current state-of-the-art of machine learning. So I'm really proud to represent the thriving AI ecosystem in Indonesia. Our esteemed President, Jokowi, has emphasized the pivotal role of AI mastery and acknowledging that those who harness the power of AI possess the potential to shape the future. As we witness the global AI race unfolding before our eyes, it is imperative that Indonesia embrace the cutting-edge technologies like generative AI, large language model, ChatGPT, DALL-E, and certainly of your highest interest is the artificial general intelligence. We must face the development of the AGI head-on, equipped with the right strategies and measures. President Jokowi also underscores the importance of our ability to learn and to adapt to this AI technology, as it grants us the power to seize opportunities, optimize AI's potentials, and determine our destiny. Today, as we come together, let us acknowledge that the growth and the prosperity of artificial intelligence ecosystem rely on talent, collaborations, and partnerships. In Indonesia, we have taken significant strides towards nurturing our AI ecosystem, exemplified by our Indonesian National AI Strategy, AI Toward Indonesia 2045. So I hand you this book, the guidelines for the Indonesia AI strategy. So this comprehensive strategy outlines our visions, objectives, and priority areas of AI development, propelling Indonesia towards becoming a global leader in AI. And by aligning our efforts with this visionary strategy, we create an environment that fosters the collaborations and integration of AI technologies across diverse sectors. Our approach thrives on collaborations. In partnership with others, we pull together our knowledge, expertise, and resources to harness the full power of AI. An integral component of this effort is KORIKA. It acts as a platform where individuals, academia, industry, community, and government can collaborate, exchange ideas, and collectively enhance AI ecosystem in Indonesia. This collective endeavor will catalyze job creations and strengthen the economy. And now, it is my great pleasure to have Sam Altman, the visionary leader behind ChatGPT. We are really thrilled to have you and the OpenAI team here. This event, the conversation with Sam Altman, proved to be really popular. The attendees snapped up 1,000 tickets in just 30 minutes. So let's give a warm applause, a round of applause to Sam and the OpenAI team. We truly honor and privileged to have you here, Sam. And we eagerly wait for your invaluable insights. Selamat datang, Sam.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so let's go ahead with the first questions. Sam, I'm just curious. Is this your first time to Indonesia? Because you are wearing batik shirts. This looks really amazing.
No, I've been a few times before.
Okay, that's good. All right, so welcome back. Yeah, it got me thinking, wouldn't it be fascinating if we could combine the creative power of GPT-4 or DALL-E just to support the batik industry to create unique and innovative patterns. I'm sure that
that's certainly possible. People have done that with DALL-E for many kinds of clothing with patterns. It works very well.
Okay.
Very well.
Okay. So on another note, the ownership of these creative outputs generated by AI is really a complex issue. And who should rightfully own the generative AI output? Is it the dataset owner, or is it the platform owner, or the prompt creator?
Yeah, I think we need a little bit of a new model there for how that should work. I think it's going to be a combination. Well, the current legal situation didn't really, at least in the US, didn't really contemplate that AI was going to come. So we have this concept of fair use, and that's like pretty clear. And then we let the person who's generating the output have ownership over that. And I think that's close to right, but it would be really nice to also figure out, not just really nice, I think it's very important to figure out a model where the people who are helping to train the model, to teach it, to create it, also get to benefit from it. So if you're a creator and you make a bunch of images that help train a future version of DALL-E, or if people are asking for it in your style, I think you should get some sort of upside in that happening. We've been talking a lot to different people about what they want for that. There's very different opinions about how it should best work, but I think we're going to start experimenting now with different versions of this about how we can help compensate people who contribute to the model as teachers or content providers or whatever. We already, of course, license a bunch of content, but we'd like to do it for individual people too. And then within that, if you're remixing stuff or coming up with new ideas and generating great prompts, the output should be yours to do what you want with. And we can also figure out how to compensate the people that provided the input.
Right. Okay, so I will go ahead and, because let us direct this to the distinguished individual among us, Mas Menteri Nadiem. the esteemed Minister of Education, Research and Technology of Indonesia. As we delve into the topic of generative AI, I am certain Mas Nadiem, Mas Menteri is pondering the potential impact of this technology on education, research and technology. With that in mind, I will cordially invite Mas Menteri to share his initial comment or pose a question to Sam Altman here. We are very grateful that he's here. Thank you, Mas Menteri, for being here. So somebody can have the mic to Mas Nadiem, Mas Menteri Nadiem. Can we have the mic, please? Yeah, our esteemed guest. The floor is yours, Mas Menteri.
Thank you. And I'm so honored to get an opportunity to ask the first question. So I'm going to abuse this privilege and ask 2 questions, if that's okay.
Just one question, please.
The first is about education, and the second one is really about how you've thought about the evolution of this company. So I think a lot of teachers around the world are freaking out right now. And they're worried that the whole concept of normal quantitative and qualitative assessment, even essay writing, will be very challenging as a proxy of progress and performance of their student. So my question to you is, I personally think that education systems should embrace AI wholeheartedly and let it push the system to evolve. But I'd like to hear your take about what you think the future of education will be like with all of these general AI systems and natural language systems that will kind of shift the perspective of how to assess students' progress. That's my first question. My second question is, I would like to know your consideration for taking OpenAI from a nonprofit to a for-profit. I'd like to hear the why, and also were there concerns you had about taking it to becoming a for-profit? And if there were, what would they be? Thank you very much.
So, education is certainly going to change dramatically. You know, I think it is forever altered by the course of this technology. But that's happened many times before in the history of education. And every time, people have been quite concerned about what was going to happen. So, you know, we can look at a further in history example like the calculator, or a more recent one like the search engine. And if you go back and read articles at the time, they sound very similar to some of the debates we are having today. You know, with the calculator, math teacher said, well, if students don't need to memorize, you know, times tables or like how to like calculate a cosine by hand or something like that, what's the purpose of mathematical education, and how will we ever test if they learn? They could be cheating with a calculator. And of course, and the same thing when Google came out. You know, teachers would say, well, if people can search for any fact, why are we making them memorize all these facts at all? What's the point, and how will we ever, you know unless we're making them sit in the classroom with no computer? And the answer in both cases, and many others, is you embrace the technology, you say this is like a new tool that humans have. With better tools, human ability, human creativity, human potential goes up, expectations go up too, and you automate part of what people can do, and you let them use their cognitive capacity and their creative ability for something new, and more powerful, more impactful, more valuable. So what will happen is the potential of every student will go up, the rate of learning of every student will go up, and the expectation of every student will go up. We'll still do a lot of the things that we do today. You know, writing is important as a way to learn how to think. You know, you get this like expanded external brain on the page. But we'll probably evaluate it in very different ways, and we'll probably teach it in different ways too. You know, we'll teach it in ways that reward the process of thinking, of coming up with new ideas with the help of the tool, of sort of operating at a higher level. And we'll have to assess it in different ways too. But we should do that. Like the idea of giving a calculus student a a test and not letting them like use a calculator as they're going would seem a bit strange. And if we make people do everything the old-fashioned way without using tools like ChatGPT, that'll seem a bit strange also. So I think we're seeing a whole range of outcomes here. We're seeing teachers who are really resisting this, saying this is like the end of the way we do education, and really have a very kind of rigid mindset to it, which I understand and empathize with. And then we have teachers who are saying like, I'm going to require my students to use ChatGPT for everything they do. And I think that's important. And if we think about what the world is going to look like, and as these people go off and create things, do jobs in the world, they're going to have these tools, and not training them to be as effective and as useful and creative as possible seems really wrong. So, we've seen education, I think, is an interesting example of what's going to happen in other sectors going forward. We've seen the full cycle. When ChatGPT first came out in the US, teachers in school districts were racing to ban it as fast as possible. This like moment of hysteria in the first month of launch, saying this is the end of education, whatever. And it did get banned in a lot of schools. But then pretty quickly after that, it was teachers themselves that were saying, we made a mistake, we're going to embrace this. We're not only going to unban it, but we're going to like build it into our teaching. And that has been super valuable, I think, for many students. The people that are starting their educational journey right now, I think, will be far more capable than any of us by the time they're done, because they're going to learn it with new tools. Like, this is how humanity makes progress. We build better tools, we build on top of the tools before, we contribute back to the societal infrastructure, and people surprise us every time on the upside of what they're capable of doing. On the second question about the nonprofit to for-profit switch, we started as a nonprofit because of our mission, and our mission has not changed. Our mission is to build safe AGI and figure out how to broadly distribute the benefits. But our tactics have had to change as we realize just how expensive these systems are. We've raised more than $10 billion US. We expect to raise way, way more over time. And given the shape of the technology and the need to make these extremely large neural networks and the ability to sort of attract and retain super talented people, we weren't able to afford that as a nonprofit. But we didn't want to give up on our mission of doing this to share the benefit, the access, the governance and the decision-making with society. And so we came up with a new structure where we're still a nonprofit, but there's a subsidiary capped profit. So we can use the magic of capitalism, give our investors and employees a certain fixed return, but beyond that have the excess return go to our nonprofit. So that if we really do succeed at our crazy dream, and we make this technology that is the most impactful technology humans have yet created, it still belongs to all of us. We can still act in the interest of doing the best thing for the world and not necessarily profit, but we're able to kind of leverage capitalism to get the resources we need to do it. And so this was the best structure we could think of.
Okay, thanks for responding to Mas Menteri here. So I want to go to the floor actually. For the next questions, we are using a Mentimeter for just listing the top questions. So can we have the top questions on the screen, please? The question, does OpenAI mind if organizations meet agents that are like humans? For example, with names and answer question like a company assistant, will you try to prevent this?
Will you try to what?
To make an intelligent agents that are.
I think my mental model is it's definitely intelligence, but it's a sort of alien form of intelligence. And it'll be good at things that humans are not always good at. It sometimes won't be good at things that are very easy for humans to do, but it will get better at everything. The number one point that I think is misunderstood about the field is the rate of progress and how long we expect that to continue. And so we'll make these agents, or other people will build these agents on top of our model. They'll be incredible at some things. They'll be not very good at other things.
Right. Yes.
And they'll keep getting better. But I think what will happen is not this sort of standard conception of, you know, we have this like one super powerful agent in the sky that can do everything that we all use.
Yeah.
But we'll have like many AI systems that are all, you know, being directed by different people, doing things for us and contributing to this sort of like society in the same way that all of us do. Like the collective ability of this room and intelligence to do a lot of things together is superhuman. Like that is a super intelligence in some sense.
Right.
And I think we'll see the same thing as we have lots of agents that can do these tasks that we want, even if they're weaker than humans individually.
Right.
Enough of them working together can do, I think, something quite amazing.
Yeah, I think people are expecting that we will have this super assistant that helps the company, you know, to do all those things. So that's automation.
I think we will. I think we'll all have like, you know, the equivalent of many super assistants, and we'll all like, if you imagine each person being the CEO of a company with like 1,000 people, and what they can get done, especially if those 1,000 people coordinate well, I can see a future like that. So each of us just has like much more ability to get things done in the world, and things just happen much faster.
Right. Okay. So let's jump to the next questions. That is on the top of the list. What is the one other direction that is most promising for AGI apart from these large language models? Yeah.
So I think large language models are going to be an enabler for many other things. And the question, or the better format of the question is, what do we do next on top of the large language models?
Right.
And for that, I think we ask the question of, what is the thing that is most valuable for the world that these large language models cannot do? And there's different opinions to that, but the one that I believe is contribute new scientific knowledge to human society. I think the way that things get better is the discovery of new science and new technology. Like that is the sustainable improvement in human quality of life. If we can imagine a model that we can say, you know, please cure all disease, please discover the optimal method to teach every student anything they'd want to learn. Please help us figure out better cooperation between nations. Please discover physics that let us, you know, solve climate change or travel between countries very fast. We can go on and on down the list, but these systems that can discover new ideas and help us make faster scientific progress, I think that is personally what I'm most excited to see happen with AI, although there's many things that'll be wonderful. And I think that requires a new research paradigm on top of these LLMs. If we think of an example of something historical, we could say, you know, Newton spent a long time reading textbooks and talking to professors and colleagues and then reading papers in journals and made all of this progress with his mathematical understanding, his ability to do math. And that's like a very wonderful thing, and that's kind of what our current models do. But no amount of reading textbooks was going to help him invent calculus. At some point, he had to go off and like think harder and come up with new ideas that didn't exist already. And I think this is the next paradigm. So we need to teach our models to do that.
Okay, all right. Well, the next one that is on my list here, perhaps you can elaborate on that. How does OpenAI evaluate whether an AI implementations or output is deemed good or bad? I think that is something that's this creative outputs that I mentioned earlier. Is it primarily based on consensus among a group of experts? Or does OpenAI involve a panel of key observers? I know the reinforcement learning with human feedback is certainly involving many of humans, yes.
So I think there is this idea of how we align our models, how we decide what they should do and not do, say and never say, kind of where the limits are. I think of this as a two-part problem. The first part was, could we come up with a technical solution? And a few years ago, it was very unclear. You know, when we launched GPT-3, most of the time it was fine, but sometimes it would say something we really didn't want. And it was a very clear failure of the alignment problem.
Right.
Now with GPT-4, it sort of behaves as designed pretty well. We've shown that we can get it to if we teach it what is good and what is bad, it'll do what is good for the most part. You can find jailbreaks and other ways around this. But now we get to the second part of the problem, which I think is even harder, and that is who decides? You know, who decides what values we're going to align these systems to? Who decides what the outer bounds are of what an AI will do and not do? And also importantly, and maybe even more contentiously, who decides what the default's going to be? Within that, you know, within these wide bounds, different countries can have different rules. The AI can, you know, read, for example, every law of Indonesia and try to follow it. The AI can read a 10-page document of, you know, here's the values and the morals of people in this little subculture and do that. Or the AI can talk to you individually, understand your value system, and do that. And so there's a huge degree of customization that we can give people. But now we've got to decide like what the general rules are going to be. And it shouldn't, of course, it shouldn't be OpenAI deciding that. Right now it is our human feedback providers that do it, but we want to make this as democratic as possible. We just launched a program to give grants for people with new research ideas about how to collect this data on human preferences in a just way from the entire world. We have some of our own ideas that we're trying to about how we talk to people, understand their values, how they think about different trade-offs, also trying to help educate them, still let them make the final decision about different perspectives. So maybe, you know, we can help make some moral progress this way. But that's our plan. Our plan is to try to hand this decision-making over democratically to the world and respect different, you know, legal frameworks as we do so.
All right. So before going to that other top question, actually I have since my background is in NLP, so as a language model that is reaching diverse global audience, including over this 300 million Bahasa Indonesia speaker, the Indonesian language speakers in Indonesia and Southeast Asia, it is crucial to ensure inclusivity and accessibility, right? So considering the significance of Bahasa Indonesia and the rich linguistic diversity landscape in Indonesia, as you know, we are one of the largest country with 472 local languages and dialects, yeah. And I'm curious to know if OpenAI has any plans or initiative. I think you've had these questions many times before, but certainly we want to know how OpenAI would like to enhance the language supports and resources for Bahasa Indonesia by expanding the capabilities and resources for Bahasa Indonesia.
We'd really like to improve on this a lot. You know, GPT-3 was good at English and barely passable at other languages. 3.5 was okay at top languages. 4 is very good at, say, the top 20 languages and passable at maybe the next 80. We would like GPT-5 to be very good at even smaller languages and dialects. We need help for that. I think if Indonesia can make a data set available and evals for those languages, we would be delighted to take that and put it into our next big model. And I think we can make something that is very good at these languages, but they are harder to collect, and we need, you know, so we need some help.
Sure.
I think making that available not only to us, but to other people training these models will be great for the people of Indonesia,
right.
And we'd be very excited to collaborate on that.
So we will, you know,
Great.
really collaborate. So give a big round of applause for Sam on this. So the next question, top on the list, with 99 votes here. OpenAI has brought the transformer architectures to its limit and won't scale further than GPT-4. Is that true? And what do you think a better architecture will look like? And is OpenAI researching in that directions?
We still don't see any limits to how far we can push these models. We may find some at some point. It'd be interesting if we do. But what has happened is we've used up the easy compute overhang, and it's gotten a little bit harder to keep delivering the same levels of gains just with compute. So we do need new paradigms. We need more efficient algorithms, better data sets, all of that. There's many new directions to pursue, but the one that I think is most important by far to get to AGI is the thing that I touched on earlier with being able to generate new ideas. That is still something that our systems are really not good at, contributing new knowledge back into society.
Okay, all right. And yeah, that's interesting. So given your position in OpenAI and formerly at the Y Combinator, what do you think distinguishes this Silicon Valley from the rest of the planet in terms of AI in the field? I think some of the Indonesian regulators are here, and they really want to know how we can, catch up with all this development.
I think one thing that I learned at Y Combinator, and certainly for OpenAI, is if you want an occasional OpenAI, you have got to make it professionally, socially, economically, whatever, acceptable to fail hard many times. If people feel like it's okay to totally fail at something, not good, it always sucks and is painful, but if it's at least tolerated, then people are willing to take bigger swings. And one of the things that we noticed at YC that was just always very different about Silicon Valley than the rest of the world is you could try a very ambitious idea, you could totally fail at it, and Silicon Valley, the whole machinery, would totally tolerate that and let you go on and do your next thing. And in much of the rest of the world, if that happens to you, it's harder to go get the next startup funded or get the next job or whatever else. And what I think that does very naturally is push people to more incremental ideas with higher probability of success. And that's perfectly fine. There's good reason for that. But if you want to stay at the forefront of technological progress in a startup ecosystem, then it's not fine. Because by definition, most times when you're trying to advance the frontier and you don't know what's going to work, you fail at that. And so I think this is a pretty important thing. And it's not just access to capital or jobs. It's got to be socially acceptable too. It's got to sound okay to your friends and your colleagues to say, I'm going to go try this very ambitious, likely to fail thing. And I'm going to work on something that's uncertain and that it's going to be misunderstood for a while. And certainly when we started and we said we're going to work on AGI, that was very outside of the Overton window, and kind of you get looked at a little bit funny. But that was fine. Silicon Valley has a long history of tolerating that. So I think that's the single biggest difference I've noticed. The talent is distributed super well around the world. Capital is getting better distributed, but this culture of we're going to take the big swings and it's okay if they don't work out, I think that is not spread as much.
So that relates to some of the questions that I saw you at the Congress Senate hearing, and I see a lot of tough questions coming from the senators about, how we regulators should be doing in light of this generative AI and AGI and things like that. That including how to actually nurture the AI ecosystem, right? So in some of the question that they have posed, I think I would like to recollect what they have said. One thing is about this, how should we consider the AI regulatory scheme in this case? Because, as you know, it's growing exponentially. Every day probably we will have these plugins on GPT that,
Yeah, I think there's multiple levels of threats to address and also different timescales. Different countries are going to have very different regulatory approaches to some of the short-term challenges. How do we think about issues of bias in the systems? How do we think about issues of reliability? How do we think about sort of economic impacts? But one thing that we've been discussing on this trip around the world, this is the 21st country we've been to in the last month, is the need for the global community to come together around regulation of AGI. So as these systems become so powerful that they affect the entire world, I think we do need a global response there. The upside is, of course, tremendous, but the downside gets quite severe as these systems become, say, as powerful as all of current human society. And there's been a great deal of interest on our trip around how the world comes together to say, okay, what is a licensing framework and what are safety standards for people that are at the very frontier? We certainly don't want to put regulatory burden on smaller companies, on open source models. That's very important.
Oh, yeah.
But if someone's creating a system that they expect to be a real AGI, there are safety concerns there that affect all of us. And I think that calls for a global regulatory response. That's very hard to do, of course, but we've done it when we've faced global risk before. Nuclear weapons, some parts of biological research, and I think we can do it again here.
All right, thanks. I think that is something that's very wise. Let's go for the next question for you, Sam. What metrics and indicators you as the CEO keep an eye on a daily or weekly or monthly basis? Do you have this GPT help you for doing this?
I don't, but maybe I should. So one of the things that is different about OpenAI than any company that I've worked closely with before is fundamentally we're a research company. And we do have to make products, and we love making products, but that's all well understood. So the metrics for like ChatGPT are standard and what you'd expect from any company. We look at, or even our API, you can just look at like active users, you can look at Net Promoter Score, you can look at revenue growth, and that's all like well understood, and that's kind of like in the tech company lore. What's new for us is how to build a company that does great research. And what metrics are you supposed to look at for a company that's trying to produce repeated research breakthroughs? Right. And when I came into OpenAI thinking like, oh, this will just be like a software company. We'll set quarterly goals, we'll have like metrics that we look at, and that really didn't work at all. There are some times, like when we're training a model and we have an evaluation with a metric, we get to watch it go up, and that's very satisfying. Everyone loves that, it's really fun. But if you're trying to figure out a new paradigm, that kind of like just doesn't, that just doesn't work. There was a moment kind of like somewhat early in the history of OpenAI where I watched this talk by a researcher that used to work with us named Ken Stanley called Greatness Cannot Be Planned. And it really changed like all of my thinking about how we manage research. And now it's like much more about people that are working on things that they think might get us to the right direction and being willing to be patient over many months or years if sort of it fundamentally fits the parameters of our research taste. Most of the time it doesn't work out. When it does work, it works breathtakingly well. And then the art is trying to notice early when something is showing these early signs, and you want to put a lot of resources behind it.
All right. Okay, thank you. So do we have the next question here? All right. As Sam Altman, recently there's been discourse around existential risks posed by AGI. How much should AI companies prioritize these threats over more immediate threats presented by existing AI capability? I think you like this question.
So one of the reasons we're doing this trip around the world is to get out of the Silicon Valley echo chamber and try to understand more how people are thinking, what they want, and just get additional input. So I'm curious, just by a show of hands, how many people in the room are pretty worried about AGI risk?
Many, right?
Not that many.
Not many.
So, this is different and great. I think both short-term risks and long-term risks are very important to think about. Our mission as a company is very AGI focused. And so we spend most of our time thinking about these longer-term AGI risks. There's many other companies thinking about the shorter-term risks. However, we believe in iterative deployment, and we think we have to address the risk at each step. So even though our mission is about these longer-term risks, we spend a great deal of time trying to mitigate the shorter-term risks, and that helps us learn along the way. I think that GPT-4 is the most aligned model ever put out, and there's no existential risk from GPT-4. All of the risks there are short-term, clear, and present, and it took us about 8 months after we finished training it until we released it to address those short-term risks. So we think there's a balance, but we differentially, because of our mission, focus our attention on the AGI risk.
All right. So can we turn to the next questions right here? Okay. In the event of large-scale deployment of large language models, how do you assess the risk of the self-cannibalizations of data? Yes.
The answer is that the future models have to decide what good data is and what isn't, what they want to train. Like, the model should choose what data it wants to train on. And if the data is high quality and interesting and increases the model's capability and understanding, whether it's human-generated or generated by a previous LLM, that's okay. The model will have to decide, is this accurate? Is this helpful? Do I want to believe this and add it to my training set? It's the exact same thing we do. When we're presented new information, we use our existing model of the world to decide if we want to incorporate it or not. And whether a person tells us that or technology tells us that, we still just evaluate the quality and the utility of the information.
Okay. So I have actually hand you this AI Indonesia national strategy, right? So Indonesia has set ambitious goals in this AI national strategy. We try to aim and harness the potentials of AI for the economic growth and societal development. And I think OpenAI has been at the forefront of AI research and development, driving innovation with all the products and pushing the boundaries of what AI can achieve. So how do you see OpenAI's mission aligning with these goals? Especially for our national strategy, we put down 4 focus areas. Is ethics, regulation and policy, data and infrastructures, talent development, as well as research and education. And on top of that, as the baseline, we have these 5 priority areas written in that national strategy. One is healthcare, the other one is food security, research and innovations, bureaucracy reform, as well as smart cities and smart mobility. And as you know, we are also are planning to have our new capital city, Nusantara, now in the making. And how do you see that, OpenAI can support all these sectors?
So we're certainly very aligned on the inputs. Those are, I think, the key things to making progress in AI that we talk about too. And in terms of those priorities, like healthcare is also one of the things I'm personally most excited about making, but all the different ways that we can drive improvements in quality of life, those are all important to us. Mm-hmm. I think the best way we can support you in that is to make the model as good as possible, certainly support local languages,
right.
And anything else you'd like that we don't support, we'd love the feedback so we can have future models address it well. Mm-hmm. But our kind of plan is to make the best, smartest, most capable, most useful models we can available for the lowest price. And I think that's the best way we can support you.
Yeah, I think that, on those 5 priority sectors, something like new discovery, new drug discovery based on traditional medicines and things like that. That is amazing.
Really exciting.
Yeah, that will be really amazing. And we see that this is, the way to go with the appearance of larger models on health, on food and others, and agricultures. Yes. So let's try to go to the next question on top on the list. Recently, we've seen companies such as Palantir implement large language models for military use. What is your stance regarding this ethical application of this, right?
Yeah, I think this is always hard to answer as like a particular single sentence because, of course, the answer is it's like very nuanced and it depends. I think we all think it's bad to have like autonomous lethal weapons. I think we all think it's fine to use these models to like defend yourself against cyber attacks, which is going to become more important. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff in the middle that I think we're going to have to, as a society, figure out what the new rules and standards are.
Right.
And we will be one voice in that, but that's really a decision for society.
All right. Can we have the next question, please? Before I will try to take this time also to invite another one from the floor, but let's just go ahead using the system here. Recently, GPT detectors have mistakenly implicated students for allegedly using ChatGPT in their work. I think that is really something that we heard a lot. And what is your opinion on this matter, and how would you advise universities on moving forward on this? Really?
Yeah, so I think there will be ways we can make these detectors better. We can also probably make some watermarking systems that help encode in images and maybe in long versions of text if something is likely to be generated by an AI. But they won't be perfect. And I think a GPT detector going off should not get a student in trouble because I don't think we can say with certainty that that's what's happening. To go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the talk, we don't use calculator detectors. We've just adapted the way that we evaluate students. And I think that's the long-term solution. But in the short term, we'll have to figure out how we're going to balance these. I think we'll use detectors, we'll use watermarking for some stuff, but we'll understand it's imperfect.
Okay. Maybe we still have some time. And is there still any other question that we can go ahead and... what steps is OpenAI taking to ensure that the development of AI is in line with ethical and security? I think there's a lot of people here interested. I have seen many of my friends here considering this ethical, you there, whether it is ethical and security values, especially in Indonesia as a culturally diverse country?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I think collecting the world's ethical values and building a system that can respect those and allow customization in different contexts is super important. So if you're interested in this, I'd really encourage you to apply to our program to help with this. And we'd love feedback on what we're thinking about, the things that we're trying, the systems that we're starting to use to collect this. We have a lot of users now, so we can talk to a broad swath of humanity and collect this feedback.
Okay, Sam. So, I have something on this AI ethics here. Well, we emphasize the importance on transparency and accountability in AI system, but we still need to undertake to address these concerns, especially for OpenAI that is, rapidly developing the large language models and others. And I think this was also being a disclaimer by ChatGPT, right? And so can you emphasize the need for how we can respond, to inquire more on the specific measures in implementing to tackle bias in AI system and to ensure that the benefits of AI, I think because we are Indonesia with these 300 million populations coming from different ethnic backgrounds, we have, layers of ethical principles, and also our ideology, Pancasila. This is the 5 principles that we adopt to. We need to really put this into the system as well.
So I think no two people are ever going to agree that one system is unbiased. Like, that's probably impossible, right? There are going to be some things that we have to agree on globally. Like, are these systems ever allowed to go kill people is something we can probably agree on easily. And there will be other things that are very different in different countries. Like free speech is handled differently in the US than in other places, for example. And again, we have an incredible new tool, which is these systems are capable of learning and understanding from natural language.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can have enforcement from the systems that is very different from what we've been able to have in, like with any previous technology. And so I can imagine a world where we have a global tier and we say, all right, here is the limits on what a very powerful system just can't do, because we think it's not only unsafe, but it's so unsafe it affects all of us that you can't use these systems to design like a really toxic pathogen. That seems reasonable. In different countries, then there will be different laws and different values. And then there will be very personal questions. Like, if I ask an AI, like, what is the most delicious food in the world?
Yes.
Rendang. Nasi goreng.
Nasi goreng.
I think
Okay.
it might be that, personally. But, other people will have very different opinions about what it is. And that's one that I think should be quite personalized. And it should learn what you think. And it should, if you want it to give your answer, it should do that. And if you want it to push you and suggest a new food you haven't tried before, it should do that. So there will just be these different classes of how we have to think about the ethics and alignment and values issues.
Yeah.
But giving people a lot of control within the very wide bounds of their society and the globe, I think, is quite important.
Okay. So I see that we have reached our time, actually. Okay. It went so fast, right? So probably I need to give some time for you to have the closing remarks to all of us here, the Indonesians, AI enthusiasts, developers, also to the Minister, Mas Menteri Nadiem, and all the regulators that probably here, the ecosystem from community. I think academia, businesses, community, and governments are all here, so please.
First of all, thank you so much for spending some time this morning with me. Getting to meet people around the world on this trip has been even more rewarding and helpful than I thought it was going to be. The thing I'll leave with is very simple. I think this is likely to be the most impactful technological revolution that humanity has yet created. And the importance for all of us to participate in shaping that, the more we work together, the more we talk, the more we really engage with this technology and decide what we want the world of the future to look like, the better it will be. One of the reasons that we deploy these systems as we go is so that we can have this conversation, so that people can get a feel for the technology, where it's going, what's going to be possible, what's not, what we want and what we don't want. And embracing this while figuring out how to mitigate the quite serious risks, I think, is the key to the world getting much, much better. And we can be in a world 25, 50 years from now, I think, that is almost unimaginably better in terms of everybody's quality of life than the world today. I think this is an unstoppable technology, but certainly one we shouldn't stop. But we do need to guide it quite a lot. And I think engaging in that, figuring out how to shape it, figuring out how to get the benefits of it, is certainly one of the biggest challenges we've ever faced, but definitely one of the most exciting and the highest potential. And I think the people and the countries that embrace this the fastest will be quite rewarded, and I think it's going to be a great future, but we have a lot of work to do to get there, and we look forward to working with all of you.
Yeah, we are all for that. Okay.
Thank you all.
For the futures. Thank you so much, Sam. This is really a great time for us to have you here. Hope you will come back many times
I look
in
forward.
the futures. Okay, all right. So again, thank you, Bapak Ibu semua. Terima kasih banyak atas kesempatannya, untuk kehadirannya, dan mohon maaf bila ada kekurangan di dalam penyampaian saya di dalam kegiatan kita pada hari ini. Saya akhiri billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, sebentar. Sam and Prof. Haman, please kindly remain on the stage as
Okay.
we initiate the photo ops for media. I would like also to extend an invitation to Mas Menteri Panadim to join them on the stage, and also our CTO of GDP Venture, Pak Only, to also welcome on the stage to take photo. Media, I think all the media over here, you may
Thank you
step
so much.
forward, but please not on the crowd.
Oke, terima kasih. Menteri. Terima kasih.
Okay, and I also invite Pak Victor Hartono, CEO of PT Jarum. Okay. Please media, you can go agak ke kanan dikit. Ya. No, the media. Media ke kanan dikit boleh? Oke, aba-aba saya ya. Oke, can you just look to the front? Ya. Oke. Udah media? Ya, oke. Left side. Take to the left side here. The media over here. To the right. Yes, over there, media. Udah? Oke, terima kasih rekan-rekan media. Oke, thank you Sam, Profesor Hamam. Ya.
We gon' do it cause we want to. Days pass by, now we playing by our own rules. Chase Tennessee with a kiss and there's some great view. Dancing in the parking lot, jamming to some old school. We the kings of the city. All the lights look pretty. We bad boys like Daddy.
Yeah. Distinguished guests, as we bring this event to a close, I want to sincerely thank each and every one of you for your presence and valuable contributions. I eagerly anticipate to chance to meet again in the future. Thank you very much.
We just here to be free. It don't feel like